When you play the Game of Thrones, you
subscribe and like,
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Grease Comics YouTube channel. Today's video, let's talk about Silverwing. We all know that dragons sometimes can do a lot of damage, and especially trying to put a rider on one. And so I want to look at the differences between why Silverwing was much easier to kind of have a rider, right? She picks out the first dude she sees in Ulf, and she's like, all right, this guy's good enough for me. But then Vermithor was not as easy to tame. I want to maybe talk about why that is, and kind of go through what we actually ended up seeing in episode 7 and maybe what actually ended up happening there. But before we do get into that, I did want to say a massive thank you to my Patreons and members for supporting me on this channel. And if you did want to become one, you do get videos early. As soon as I drop them on YouTube, they go straight to you as a member. And also, I do my exclusive videos for House of the Dragon and also just Song by Some Fire stuff going forward. One video a week will be on there. So let's get into the video. So let's take a look at Vermithor. So Vermithor, is summoned by Rhaenyra, and you're sitting here and you can kind of just tell by the way the music's going, and you realize, okay, well, Vermithor is not about to just take the first schmuck that walks up to him. And so Vermithor is much more hostile, kills a lot of people, and he doesn't even seem like it really wants a rider until Hugh shows this strength to more or less tame it, which is ironic. People have pointed out, which I find very interesting, is that if Hugh actually is the son of Sarah Targaryen, the daughter of Jaehaerys, it's quite ironic because Jaehaerys was not the biggest fan of Sarah, and he had a really bad relationship with his daughters, probably his biggest flaw. So that, it's funny that the person that claims his dragon comes from that line. But it takes that, it seems like Vermithor respects strength and courage and being able to, show fearlessness in the face of danger, something that nobody else was able to do. And so on one side of it, you have like the character of Hugh, who's somebody that's a little bit more courageous. He's willing to fight for his family, all these tropes. And so that kind of reflects in the differences between Hugh and Ulf, which is why I think their pairing going forward will be very interesting to look at. It's this idea that you have somebody like that with Hugh, and then Ulf is almost the complete opposite. Ulf is somebody that he's not very courageous. He's kind of cowardly. He seems like somebody that does not have his shit together. He is kind of a drunk guy. He's kind of almost the polar opposite of Hugh in a lot of ways. And that's kind of what they've been going for. And I've kind of had my issues with the character of Ulf. I don't love characters like that are kind of incompetent, that stumble into luck and get a dragon somehow. But so let's kind of go away from Hugh. So we go away from Hugh and let's go to Ulf. So Ulf ends up stumbling into the lair of Silverwing, Queen Alysanne's dragon in Silverwing being there. And we see Ulf step on one of her eggs, which I find is a weird thing, because even though it seems like Ulf does something that this dragon probably shouldn't like, Silverwing just seems very interested in this person of Ulf. And one of the things we know from Fire and Blood, the two dragons that are going to be kind of the most used to people in a lot of ways was going to be Vermithor and Silverwing. And so that seems to play out with Silverwing here in the show, because Silverwing is very used to people at King's Landing. This was Alysanne's dragon, or Alysanne's dragon. I'm not clear on the pronunciation, so if you'd like to correct me, go ahead in the comments. I would actually like to know. But we see that Silverwing interacts with people a lot. And so you also look at Alysanne, who was a really great queen. She's probably the greatest queen that Westeros has ever had in terms of how she cared about the people. She was somebody that could be very kind and caring, but also a very strong person as well. And so I think you think about those quality traits that maybe could be in Silverwing, where Silverwing likes people, and maybe Silverwing even wanted to get back into interacting with people, because maybe Silverwing likes people and just in general. Maybe that's something. And you also recognize that blood that would be within Ulf, that would be make him a Targaryen. It's also interesting that the rumor that Ulf talks about is that he is the son of Balon the Brave, which ironic given how he is. So maybe it was just a sign of just Silverwing wanted somebody to ride them anyway, and so just picks Ulf. And you even kind of see that Silverwing kind of seems reflective of its time in King's Landing, based upon the fact that Silverwing takes Ulf directly to King's Landing directly after. And so you have this story between two different characters that have very polar opposites. And I think it is a clever bit of writing, albeit I don't love characters like Ulf. It is interesting to show the differences because if you think about Jaehaerys was somebody that was always very strong. He was someone that, regardless of what you thought about him, he was extremely wise. He was decisive. He was everything that Aenys, for instance, was not. And so you look at Vermithor, and I think Vermithor looks at all these people that they're indecisive, right? They're coming here because they're desperate. They don't really like want to claim a dragon. They want to get out of poverty. They want to get out of these situations. And you have all these people that probably weren't here for the right reasons. So maybe Vermithor kind of senses those things. And so when Hugh actually stands up and shows Vermithor that like he's not going to be bullied, that he is going to assert his dominance, maybe that's what Vermithor was looking for in a potential rider. If you were going to be someone to follow Jaehaerys, you had to be strong. And Hugh, we know he's going to have his flaws going forward based on the book. I won't get into any spoilers because, you know, if you're somebody that hasn't read the book, I don't want you to be spoiled. But he is somebody that's very complex. And something I really like about what Season 2 has done with Hugh is they've given him a lot more layers. And, you know, as much as we think of this kind of heroic, courageous person in Hugh, let's not forget in the last episode, he basically beat up someone for food, which again shows the desperation that was going on in King's Landing. It shows that there are those layers. Like one of the main themes that Arya has in her last chapter in A Game of Thrones is when is stealing, you know, okay. You know, if you're dying and you can't provide for your family anymore, something like that, is stealing okay, right? We hear that Hugh's daughter actually died off screen between episodes 6 and 7. Hugh is someone that is very fractured. He's lost a lot because of this war and the things that have happened. Very interesting to see what we'll see with the character of Hugh. I'll also be interested if we actually get to discuss the parentage of Hugh and Ulf. We didn't get to see that in episode 7 because it didn't have any downtime after they, you know, claimed the dragons. So it'll be interesting in episode 8 if we get any clarification. Like, does Ulf run with the story that he's Balon the Brave's son? Does, you know, do we get some more confirmation and details into Hugh's, like, parentage of Sarah? Because right now, we're kind of left in a weird position. Like, the running, I think, idea for Hugh right now is that if Sarah was his mother, he would have ended up leaving her at some point because he says he's ashamed of her in the episode and went to Westeros to maybe try to build a living as a blacksmith and those things. So it'll be interesting to see if we get to kind of pull back some of those layers. I'd also like to see if we get more on Adam, which I really like the character of Adam, and I hope we get to see more of that parentage getting kind of revealed because it actually is a pretty big plot point in the book that hasn't really been covered yet. But we'll see, and I hope to see you guys all in the finale for Season 2 and into Episode 8. Hopefully it's a good one, and I'll see you guys there. I'll be on Voice of Old Town's channel to discuss the episode afterwards if you guys did want to join us, and hopefully we'll be a little bit more positive this episode. Hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.